People used to joke that Brooke and I were disgusting. That's the word they'd use, disgusting. We were always laughing at each other's dumb jokes, sneaking touches in public, finishing each other's sentences like a pair of teenagers who couldn't keep their hands or their thoughts to themselves. Our friends would roll their eyes when she'd lean into me at a dinner party and whisper something only I could hear, and I'd chuckle like a fool. We were the couple they teased, the one that made everyone else look at their own relationship and wonder if maybe they were missing something. And for a long time, it wasn't an act. That's the part that still twists in my gut when I think about it. It felt real. Brooke had this way of putting her whole heart into small things. Tuesday nights weren't just Tuesday nights in our house. She'd light candles, order takeout from the little Korean place downtown, and have a movie queued up before I even got home. Not because it was an anniversary or my birthday, but because she said life was too short to wait for big occasions. She was right, and I believed her. She used to tuck notes into my lunch. Nothing elaborate. Sometimes just a, "You got this," love bug, or a doodle of a cat hanging onto a branch with the words hanging in there. Cheesy? Sure. But it worked. I'd pull one out at my desk between conference calls, and it would remind me that someone was in my corner. That kind of thing keeps a man steady. She remembered the little anniversaries I forgot. Our first trip together, the day we adopted our dog, the night we moved into the house. She'd make my favorite meal after a long day, drop everything to hear about a problem at work, and then hit me with practical advice that made me wonder how I'd gotten lucky enough to land someone who understood both my job and me. From the outside, people thought we were a little too much. On the inside, it felt like I'd cracked the code. Like I'd beaten the odds and found the one woman who made marriage look easy. I'm not the type to spout poetry, but I'll say this. For a while, I woke up every day knowing I was where I was supposed to be. And for a man like me, someone who's built his life on discipline, numbers, and watching the market for patterns, that sense of certainty was rare. Brooke wasn't a gamble. She was the sure thing, or so I thought. The routines we built had weight. Morning coffee together before the day split us apart. A text at lunch just to say hi. Dinner at the same table, even if one of us was exhausted. It wasn't glamorous, but it was solid. That's what I thought marriage was supposed to be. Two people choosing each other in all the small, quiet ways that add up to something permanent. I'd come home after 12 hours at the office, drop my bag, and find her humming in the kitchen. She'd hand me a glass of bourbon before I asked, lean on the counter, and ask about my day. That smile of hers made the rest of the world fade for a while. We had our fights, sure. Who doesn't? But even then, there was this unspoken promise that we'd work through it. She had a temper. I had a tendency to go cold. Somehow those opposites balanced out. At least that's what I thought back then. When I look back now, the picture feels almost staged, like a family portrait where everyone's smiling just for the camera. But at the time, it didn't feel fake. I didn't feel like a fool. I felt like a man who'd gotten lucky and knew it. There's a line I've replayed in my head 100 times since it all fell apart. We were at a friend's wedding, dancing under those twinkle lights people love to string across barns now. Brooke leaned in, kissed me on the cheek, and whispered, "We'll always be the couple people point to when they want proof love still works." I believed her. God help me, I believed her. If I'd known how fast it could all shift, from candles and inside jokes to locked doors and manila envelopes, I might have braced myself. But when you're in the middle of it, you don't think about the end. You just think, this is it, this is home. Turns out, love feels real until it doesn't. It started with toothpaste. That's what still gets me. How something so ordinary became the first sign. I was standing at the sink one night, toothbrush foaming up, when Brooke leaned against the doorframe and asked, casually as you please, "How much do you have in your Roth IRA?" I nearly choked on mint. Now, I work in finance. Numbers are my bread and butter. I can smell the difference between an honest question and one with an agenda, the same way a mechanic can hear when a car's not firing right. This wasn't curiosity. This wasn't her trying to learn. Her tone was measured, neutral but not, like she already knew the ballpark figure and wanted to hear if I'd match it. I spit, rinsed, and tried to play it cool. "Doing fine," I said. "Why?" She shrugged, brushing her hair back, watching me through the mirror. Just planning for the future. Planning for the future. Cute words. The kind you can hang on a fridge magnet. But they landed heavy. 2 nights later, she circled back. This time it was my brokerage account. Then my old high-yield savings account I'd kept around since college. Then, out of nowhere, my grandparents' inheritance. She'd never asked about that before. Not once. And trust me, Brooke wasn't the type to sit through my explanations of compound interest or bond ladders. She used to call that stuff sleep medicine. Now suddenly, she wanted an itemized breakdown? The thing about people is, their patterns matter more than their words. She wasn't just asking questions. She was building a ledger. I could see it plain as day. She'd smile, nod, maybe kiss me on the cheek afterward, but the warmth wasn't there. The questions were surgical, and they came with a rhythm. One every couple of nights, always when my guard was down. Brushing my teeth, watching TV, unwinding with a drink. Not during dinners with friends, not when we were out, not in daylight. Always in those quiet moments when I'd normally answer without thinking. One night I tested her. I mentioned a small account I'd already closed years ago. Just tossed it into the conversation like bait. Her eyes flickered, just for a second, and she asked, "Oh, how much was in that one?" That's when I knew for certain. She was keeping track. Don't get me wrong, married couples talk about money all the time. Budgets, vacations, savings goals. But this was different. This wasn't our money talk. This was her auditing me like a client she didn't trust. I found myself lying awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying every word. Planning for the future. Whose future? Ours or hers? I tried to brush it off. Told myself I was being paranoid, that after years of marriage she just wanted to be more involved. But deep down, the part of me that analyzes trends for a living couldn't ignore the shift. She wasn't curious. She was calculating. One morning over coffee, she pressed again. "How much do you think we could liquidate quickly if we needed to?" She said it like she was asking about the weather, spoon tapping against her mug. I kept my face still, but my insides tightened. Liquidate. That's not a word Brooke used. That's a word I used in meetings with clients. That's a word you use when you're preparing to move, invest, or, God forbid, leave. I smiled back and said, "Depends on the market." "Why?" She reached across, squeezed my hand, and gave me that practiced grin. "Just like to know what we're working with." But I wasn't buying it anymore. From that day, every number I spoke out loud I weighed twice. Every statement I left lying around, I double-checked. My life, our life, started to feel less like a marriage and more like a balance sheet she was auditing line by line. The toothbrush had been the first red flag. By the time I saw the others, it was too late to pretend I didn't know what was coming. Patterns don't lie. People do, but math never does. At first, I told myself Brooke's questions about my accounts were just curiosity, a phase. But then the routine changed. Subtle at first. She started working late. A lot. Brooke wasn't the kind to burn midnight oil. Her job had always been steady hours, home by 6, maybe 7 if traffic was bad. Suddenly she was rolling in at 9, sometimes 10. Her excuse was always the same. A big project, a demanding client, a new system. I wanted to believe her. For a while I did. But belief is fragile when the evidence keeps piling up. The bathroom door started locking. That one hit me like a cold slap. We never lock doors in this house. What's the point? Married couples don't need to. But now she'd step in with her phone, shut the door, and I'd hear her voice low and clipped behind it. Not laughing, not chatting. Negotiating. Convincing. Whispering. When I asked, she brushed it off. "Private stuff with Grace," she'd say, naming her best friend. Or, "Tyler's going through things." Throwing her brother into the excuse pile. Maybe once, maybe twice I'd have bought it. But the way her voice dropped told me I wasn't supposed to hear. Receipts started vanishing too. Brooke used to leave them in her purse, in the car, on the counter. Little scraps of our life together. Grocery lists, coffee runs, gas fill-ups. Now, nothing. Either she'd gone paperless overnight, or she was making damn sure I couldn't track her. I log into our shared bank app one night to check the utilities, and that's when the real alarm bells go off. Multiple login attempts flagged in the security section. 2, 3, sometimes 4 times a day. Different hours, all from her phone. I hadn't seen that before. She wasn't just glancing. She was monitoring, watching every deposit, every transfer, every charge. Like she was timing me. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the screen, and a part of me I hadn't felt in years stirred awake. That old, cold part that doesn't yell or panic. The part that calculates. If you've spent your career in finance, you learn early on. When the numbers start shifting, you don't ignore them. You track, you document, you connect the dots. And every dot in Brooke's behavior spelled out the same word: exit. It wasn't just the accounts. It was the way talk of vacations suddenly died. We used to plan trips months in advance, even if we didn't always take them. Cabin in Vermont. A week in Savannah. Hell, even a road trip up the coast. Now, when I mentioned it, she'd shut down the conversation in seconds. Kids? Forget it. Brooke had always been the one leaning into that idea. She'd smile at babies in grocery stores, make comments about nurseries in houses we toured. Lately, though, the subject hit a wall. Cold. Like she couldn't afford to entertain a future with me anymore. The clincher was her schedule obsession. She tracked my hours with the precision of an auditor. What time will you be home? Any late meetings? You going to the gym after work? At first, it felt flattering, like she cared. But soon, it was too precise, too consistent. Not curiosity, calibration. That's when I started my own audit. I kept a notepad tucked in the drawer of my desk at home. Dates, times, behaviors. She worked late? Noted. Locked the door for a phone call? Noted. Bank logins flagged? Noted. Within weeks, the pattern screamed at me. The late nights lined up with the login spikes. The calls matched the missing receipts. I remember one evening crystal clear. She came home at 10, hair a little too perfect, makeup touched up when it should have been worn down from the day. I was at the table with my laptop open, a spreadsheet glowing on the screen. She kissed my cheek, tasted faintly of a wine she hadn't bought, and said, "Rough day at work." I just nodded, didn't confront her, didn't show my hand. But inside, the anger sat like a coiled spring. Not loud, not messy, just tight and controlled. Because the more I mapped her moves, the more obvious it became. Brooke wasn't living in this marriage anymore. She was staging her exit, and she thought I was too blind to see it. She didn't know who she married. There's a strange guilt that comes with protecting yourself in a marriage. Like you're cheating, except you're not sneaking around with another person, you're sneaking around with foresight. Every move I made felt like betrayal, even though betrayal was already living under my roof. The first step was documentation. If Brooke was running an audit on me, then I'd damn well run one of my own. I started small, snapping photos of serial numbers, receipts, warranties, watches, laptops, the tools in my garage, even the dining table we picked out together. I logged it all in a spreadsheet, date of purchase, price, condition, backed up twice, encrypted. Every line item became a shield. Next came the accounts. I didn't touch our joint funds. I wanted no one to accuse me of draining or hiding. But my inheritance, that was separate property legally and emotionally. I moved it into a clean account under my name alone. Not a secret account, not offshore, just protected. If she planned to torch the landscape on her way out, I wasn't going to let her salt the ground I came from. The guilt followed me like a shadow. Every keystroke, every photo taken in silence while she was at work, carried a weight. Was I overreacting? Was I becoming paranoid? Turning into the kind of husband who saw ghosts in the walls? Maybe. But the thing about paranoia is it feels an awful lot like pattern recognition when the evidence keeps stacking up. Then came the moment that stripped the hesitation out of me. It was a Saturday morning, pancakes on the griddle, coffee brewing. Brooke leaned against the counter, scrolling her phone, and dropped it like casual gossip. "Logan's cousin has this can't-miss investment tip. Short-term, huge payout. Maybe we should cash out something long-term and roll it in." She said it like she was talking about trying a new restaurant. Like moving tens of thousands of dollars was as simple as ordering takeout. I flipped the pancake, kept my voice steady. "Which account were you thinking of?" She waved her hand, eyes never leaving the screen. Any, whatever's easiest. Any, whatever's easiest. That was all I needed to hear. The last of my hesitation burned off like fog in the sun. She wasn't asking because she believed in some cousin's stock tip. She was testing, probing, seeing how liquid we could make our life without raising alarms. That night, I sat at my desk long after she'd gone to bed. The glow of the monitor cast shadows on the walls while I finalized my safeguards. I shifted my contributions into safer, harder-to-liquidate positions. Nothing reckless, nothing flashy. Just clean, deliberate moves that made it impossible for anyone, her included, to bleed me dry overnight. I stared at the spreadsheet when I finished, the rows of numbers, dates, and notes staring back at me like soldiers lined up for inspection. It wasn't romance. It wasn't trust. But it was protection. And for the first time in weeks, I felt steady. Here's the truth people don't like to admit. Sometimes safeguarding your future feels like betraying your present. But I knew better now. Love doesn't ask for blind trust. Love doesn't track your every move and audit your accounts. Love doesn't tell you to cash out the foundation you've built for some cousin's get-rich scheme. Protecting myself wasn't betrayal. It was survival. It was a Tuesday morning, the kind that feels like autopilot. Coffee brewing, toast in the toaster, Brooke scrolling her phone at the counter like any other day. Nothing in her body language warned me. No heavy sighs, no fake cheer. Just stillness. Then she reached into her tote bag, pulled out a manila envelope, and slid it across the counter like it was junk mail. I stared at it for a second before touching it. What's this? Her eyes never lifted from the phone. Divorce papers. That's all she said. No speech, no tears, no trembling. Clinical. Like she'd rehearsed this enough times in her head that emotion had been ironed out completely. I opened the envelope, scanned the top pages. Petition for dissolution of marriage. Asset distribution already mapped. Spousal support penciled in. It wasn't a first draft, it was a finished product. I closed the envelope, set it back on the counter, and said one word, "Okay." She finally looked up then, and I'll never forget the flicker in her eyes. Surprise, disappointment even, like she expected me to beg, to shout, to collapse. Instead, I kept my voice calm, my hands steady. Inside me, a checklist flipped green one by one. Documents secured. Inventory complete. Inheritance shielded. Contributions untouchable. She thought she was cornering me, but she was walking into a room I'd already emptied of weapons. She cleared her throat. "That's all you have to say? Okay." I met her gaze. "That's all." For a moment, silence stretched between us like a rope pulled taut. She wanted me to fight, to protest, to show my hand. But controlled anger has its own power. Sometimes the quiet response cuts deeper than rage. That night, we ate dinner at the same table, but it felt like sitting across from a coworker at a bad conference. Conversation reduced to logistics, what time I'd be home, whether the lawn guy had been paid. The food tasted like nothing. She didn't look at me, and I didn't try to look at her. Afterwards, I gathered a pillow and blanket, walked down the hall, and set up in the guest room. No slammed doors, no shouting matches. Just distance, clean and deliberate. Then I picked up my phone and called my lawyer. The next day, while she thought I was at work, I sat across from him at his polished oak desk, papers spread in neat stacks. "She served me," I said. He leaned back, eyebrows raised. "And you're prepared?" I slid over my folder. Documentation, bank statements, photos, serial numbers, inheritance transfers, everything. His expression shifted from surprise to something close to admiration. "You're ahead of the curve," he said. "I had to be." He nodded, tapping his pen against the folder. "Most men come in blindsided, emotional, scrambling. You're walking in with a blueprint." Blueprint. I liked that word. I left his office with a sense of calm I hadn't felt in weeks. That night, I slept better in the guest room than I had in months. Not because the bed was comfortable, it wasn't, but because the shock had landed and I hadn't broken. Brooke thought she was delivering a death blow. All she'd really done was confirm what I already knew. She'd been planning this, and she underestimated me. When you're blindsided, you flail. When you're prepared, you absorb the hit and keep moving. Brooke slid a manila envelope across the counter like it was supposed to be the end. For me, it was the signal that the second half of the game had just begun. 2 weeks after the settlement, Brooke Anderson evaporated. Not faded, evaporated. One day she was still orbiting the edges of my life like a coworker I couldn't shake. The next she was gone without a ripple. It started with the phone calls. Jenna Ortiz rang me first. Her voice was sharp, a mix of worry and accusation. "Have you heard from Brooke? She's not answering. She bailed on our dinner." I told her no, and the silence that followed told me Jenna didn't believe me. Then Grace Mitchell reached out, same story. "She hasn't been to yoga. Her phone's dead." "What's going on, David?" I almost laughed. What was going on? Brooke had orchestrated every step of this, and they were only now realizing they'd been cut out too. By the third call, I had the rhythm down. "No, I haven't heard from her." "Yes, I'll let you know if I do." Then came Logan Pierce, her boss. The man sounded irritated, not concerned. "She resigned. No notice, no handover. Just an email. Do you know what the hell that's about?" I leaned back in my chair, staring at the ceiling fan. "Nope," I said. "I wish I could help." What I didn't say was that none of this surprised me. Brooke had been staging this exit for months. The obsessive schedule tracking, the bathroom phone calls, the constant auditing of our accounts. None of that was about me. It was about her clean getaway. Her socials were the next to vanish. Instagram scrubbed. Facebook deactivated. Even her LinkedIn gone like she'd never worked a day in her life. Friends texted me screenshots like they were evidence of a crime. "Look, she deleted everything." What does that mean? It meant Brooke Anderson was burning her old life behind her, making sure there was no trail to follow. The real kicker came when I checked our shared bank app out of habit. Her accounts were empty, closed, not drained. Clean cashier's checks pulled and cashed. Not sloppy, not panicked, surgical. I pictured her, hair tied back, walking into a bank branch with that smile that made tellers melt, signing papers with her steady hand. Then I pictured the door swinging shut behind her. No one realizing it was the last time they'd ever see her there. Her family went radio silent too. Tyler Anderson, her brother, usually quick with casual texts about football or work gossip, went dark. No calls, no updates, nothing. I tried once just to see and got voicemail on the first ring. Message full. He cut me off clean. Every red flag that used to feel like paranoia now lined up like dominoes falling. The late nights? Cover. The locked doors? Planning. The receipts gone missing? No paper trail. She hadn't just been leaving me. She'd been staging her own disappearance. And here's the part most men won't say out loud. It didn't hurt. Not anymore. Not when the pieces fit this neatly. What it did was confirm the decision I'd made weeks earlier. Preparation was my salvation. She thought she was playing chess, but she never noticed I'd already cleared my side of the board. Her vanishing act didn't gut me. It didn't even shake me. It validated me. One evening, sitting on the porch with a bourbon in hand, I watched the sunset paint the sky in streaks of red and gold. My phone buzzed with another message from Grace. "Have you heard anything yet?" I let it sit, took a slow sip. Brooke had wanted control. She'd wanted the clean break, the upper hand, the story where she left first. Fine. She could have it. I wasn't chasing her. I wasn't dragging her back. If disappearing was her plan, then she'd succeeded. And me? I was still here. House intact. Accounts secured. Anger cooled into something sharper than grief, clarity. Brooke Anderson was gone. And for the first time in months, I realized I didn't miss her. Life after Brooke was quiet. First, it was too quiet. The house felt hollow, like someone had pulled the insulation out of the walls. No footsteps upstairs. No perfume hanging in the air. No second coffee mug sitting on the counter. Just me, my routines, and the echo of what used to be. But men like me, we adjust. I went back to basics. Work, lifting, sleep, repeat. The market was strong. My clients were happy. My portfolio climbed. I filled the empty hours with iron and sweat at the gym, steel plates clanging, the kind of effort that burns out the noise in your head. I won't pretend I wasn't bitter. Anger doesn't just vanish when the person does. It lingers, tight and controlled, the way a scar reminds you of a wound long after it's healed. But anger, when you learn how to channel it, becomes fuel. And slowly, I stopped asking why Brooke did what she did. I stopped replaying the toothbrush questions, the locked doors, the vanishing act. Instead, I started thinking about what came next. That's when Emily Lawson walked in, or more accurately, crashed in. It was a Saturday afternoon, grocery store packed, and I was cutting through the cafe section with a drink in hand. A strawberry frappe, don't judge. I've got a sweet tooth, and after months of bourbon and black coffee, I figured I'd earned it. Emily was coming the other way, tray balanced with 2 drinks and a paper bag. We collided right at the corner. My frappe exploded all over the floor, and half of hers splashed onto her scrubs. Jesus Christ, I muttered, grabbing napkins. She laughed. Actually laughed. Bright, unbothered. Guess the universe wanted a strawberry floor latte. I looked up at her then. Really looked. Blonde hair pulled back. No makeup except a smudge of mascara. Pediatric nurse, as I learned later. But in that moment, all I saw was someone who could turn a mess into humor. We cleaned it up together, both sticky and ridiculous, and somehow that turned into coffee. Coffee turned into lunch the next week. Lunch turned into evenings on my porch, her in those ridiculous unicorn scrubs, telling me about her patients and how kids have a way of cutting through adult nonsense with one brutally honest sentence. What struck me most was her steadiness. Emily wasn't trying to impress me, wasn't auditing me, wasn't playing games. She asked about my day and actually listened. When she didn't like my answer, she said so straight. No riddles, no traps, just honesty. For months, I'd been living like a man who'd survived a storm, boarded up, bracing for the next hit. With Emily, the air felt different, clearer, lighter. We started small. A walk here, a dinner there. I didn't overshare. She didn't pry. She knew I carried history, but she didn't treat me like a project. That mattered. Too many people, when they see scars, want to run their fingers over them, ask how you got them, try to heal what's already healed. Emily just accepted that they were there. The anger that had driven me, controlled, useful but heavy, started to loosen its grip. Not gone, never gone, but softened. When I heard her laugh over spilled sugar packets at a diner, or when she teased me about ordering the same bourbon every time, I felt something I hadn't in a long time. Not relief, not even joy, just normal. And after Brooke, normal felt like a luxury. Work was good, too. I took on bigger clients, pushed harder, and saw the kind of returns that make a man stand taller. Success has its own gravity, and combined with Emily's calm presence, I started to feel whole again. One night, sitting on the porch as crickets buzzed in the dark, she leaned her head on my shoulder and said, "You're not as serious as you look, you know?" I smirked. "Don't tell anyone. I've got a reputation." She laughed, and it hit me then. This wasn't about replacing Brooke. This wasn't about erasing what had happened. It was about building something new, brick by brick, with someone who didn't need to tear me down to feel tall. For the first time in a long time, Tuesday nights were simple again. And simple, I realized, was all I'd ever needed. It was a Thursday night, just past 9. Emily and I had finished dinner, simple stuff, pasta and garlic bread, and were cleaning up when the knock came. Hard, fast, insistent. The kind of knock that doesn't ask permission. I opened the door and there she was. Brooke Anderson. Her hair was a mess. Mascara streaked like she'd been crying or raging or both. Clothes wrinkled, face pale. Not the composed, calculating woman who once slid divorce papers across the counter. This was someone ragged at the edges, running on fumes. Her eyes darted past me, landing on the white beetle in my driveway. Emily's. Her lip curled, and the first thing out of her mouth wasn't hello. "So this is what you traded me for?" Her voice was sharp enough to cut glass. I didn't flinch, just leaned on the doorframe. "Evening, Brooke." Emily stepped into the hallway, calm as ever, holding a plate of cookies she'd just pulled from the oven. She didn't say a word, just looked at Brooke with that steady nurse's gaze, the one that could disarm a child mid-tantrum. Brooke's eyes snapped to the plate. She sneered. Baking cookies? Really? How domestic. Then she turned her fire back on me. You need to return my things. The watches, the cufflinks, the Montblanc pen I gave you. All of it. Those were gifts and they're mine. I kept my voice level. I sold most of them, donated the rest. Her face twisted. You what? Part of moving on, I said. They didn't mean anything to me. That detonated her. She started pacing on the porch, arms flailing, words spilling fast and ugly. Accusations about how I'd stolen years from her. How I owed her more than the settlement. How she deserved better. Inside, I could feel Emily watching. Not anxious, not meddling, just there. That mattered. Brooke wanted a fight, wanted me to lose control, to give her something she could hang on to. But I'd spent months learning how to channel my anger into steel, not fire. So I cut through her rant with one sentence. Brooke, you made your choice. I made mine. We're done here. Her eyes widened like I'd slapped her. She wasn't expecting calm. She wasn't expecting boundaries. She was expecting the man she could manipulate. The one who used to believe every candlelit Tuesday night meant forever. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. You think she's better than me? You think this little nurse with her cookies and her stupid car can replace me? I met her gaze, steady and unblinking. I don't think about you at all. That landed. She froze for half a second, eyes wet, jaw tight. Then she turned, stormed off the porch, and disappeared into the night. I closed the door, locked it, and let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. Emily handed me a cookie, still warm, chocolate chips melting. She didn't say anything dramatic, didn't ask questions. Just smiled that quiet smile of hers. I bit into the cookie, and the room tilted back into balance. Brooke's knock had been loud, but my boundary had been louder. The call came just past midnight. Tyler Anderson, Brooke's brother. His voice was low, urgent, almost pleading. David, she's in a bad spot. She needs help. You're the only one she'll listen to. I let the silence stretch before answering. Not my problem anymore. Then I hung up. 2 days later, I agreed to meet her anyway. Downtown coffee shop, middle of the afternoon, people around. I didn't do it for her. I did it to finish the ledger in my chest once and for all. Brooke looked like a shadow of the woman I used to know. Hair unkempt, eyes hollow, clothes that didn't fit right. She stirred her coffee without drinking it, hands shaking. Finally, she spoke. The words tumbled out in a rush. There was someone else. An ex from high school. We had this plan, buy land in Montana, live off the grid, raise animals, grow food. Real life. Not this corporate crap. Her voice cracked. I used the settlement. All of it. It's gone. He's gone. And I'm pregnant. I sat there, stone still. No outburst, no curse, no sympathy. Just listening like a man listening to a business pitch he's already decided against. She leaned forward, eyes glassy. I need money, just until I get back on my feet. Or maybe we could try again. We were good once, David. You know we were. That old anger flickered, but it didn't consume me. I thought of the nights documenting serial numbers, the guest room, the manila envelope, Emily's laugh over spilled sugar. And for the first time, I felt gratitude. Not for Brooke, but for myself. For the precautions, for the calm, for refusing to let her drag me into her chaos. I pushed my chair back, slow and steady. No money, no second chances. You made your choice. Live with it. Her eyes filled, then hardened. You're heartless. I stood, tossed a 5 on the table for the untouched coffee. No, I'm free. That night, around midnight, she showed up at my door again. Sobbing, raging, shouting about bills, about what I owed her. I warned her once. When she didn't stop, I picked up my phone and dialed. She stormed off before the cops even answered. I texted Emily. You awake? A minute later she replied, I've got donuts. Come over. And just like that, the ledger balanced. Here's what no one tells you. Happiness, not retaliation, is the cleanest revenge.
Subscribe and stay one step ahead of cheaters. And trust me, the next story makes this one look like a fairy tale.